The following presentation and accompanying parts of this series can be used as a template for teaching the principles of screenplay formatting to non-writers. This slide in particular, included in each part of the series, can also be formatted into a one-page handout that communicates the following material at its most basic level. The presentation that follows pulls from a variety of sources. In your own writing and from the instructors you meet, and even throughout this presentation, you'll see disagreement between these rules sometimes. Whenever in doubt, the rule of thumb is consistency plus readability equals correct formatting. A good scene starts with a correctly formatted scene heading that answers the essential question for every reader: where am I? In today's webinar, we'll be going over the three major types of scene headings: master scene headings, secondary scene headings, and specialty headings. Headings always appear in caps. Some writers bold, while others don't. Whichever you choose, remember to be consistent. A quick note before we get started: although these two terms are used interchangeably, scene headings are not slug lines. While scene headings detail where we are in the script, slug lines are capitalized lines in the narrative description used to identify important information. Slug lines will be discussed in greater length in the next part of the series, narrative description. But first, master scene headings. An example of some can be seen in this script written by Charlie Kaufman. A master scene heading consists of three main parts, and occasionally a fourth: camera location, scene location, time of day, and special notations, such as the year. Starting with camera locations. If the camera is located outside or outdoors, use EXT for exterior. If the camera is located indoors, use INT for interior. Occasionally, action moves back and forth through a doorway or opening, or a scene begins one place before quickly moving to another, as in a car. This can create a large number of master scene headings. In such instances, internal/external is used. The scene location is the master or primary location of the scene, the physical place where everything happens. This should be kept as concise as possible, such as a street, an elevator, a hotel room. Specific names like Sunset Boulevard or Smith's house can also be used. A time detail, like first day of school or New Year's Eve, are not locations. This is a highly contested issue. Most everyone agrees that there are at least two acceptable times for your scene headings: day and night. But when it comes to modifying terms like dusk, dawn, late afternoon, etc., some argue that they can be used, while others argue they can be placed in parentheses after day and night. And yet others say you should avoid such terms entirely. Again, whichever you choose, be consistent. In addition to night and day, terms like same and continuous will also be used in the slot for time of day. Same indicates that the scene takes place at the same time as the previous scene, while continuous is used to show that one scene follows on the heels of another. Sometimes later is also used to indicate the passage of time in the same location. If a scene requires further identification, such as noting that it is in a car or is a dream sequence, a fourth part is added. Further identification can be noted via parentheses. Whether you choose the dash or the parentheses, remember to be consistent. Additionally, the same method is used when clarifying years or shifted locations. This helps keep the reader oriented in a script that jumps around place and time. If the audience needs to know this information, you need to use a super. Supers are used in narrative description and will be discussed in the next webinar. Moving on to secondary scene headings. An example of secondary scene headings can be seen in this script written by Bong Joon-ho and Han Jin-won. There are several reasons why a writer might use secondary scene headings. The first is to showcase locations within locations. Master scene headings often contain more than one dramatic unit, each of which requires scene headings. Secondary scene headings help organize the movement in these master locations and breaks up the master scene into smaller locations. For example, your master scene heading might say Interior Club Night. From here, we can go into specific areas such as at the bar or in the restroom. If a lot of action happens between the master scene and the secondary scene, typically more than a page of action, it's recommended to format the specific location into a new master scene heading. Another instance in which a writer would use secondary scene headings is for characters. Secondary scene headings can also be used to focus on specific characters, controlling what the audience sees that perhaps the characters within the scene do not. In these instances, you can direct the camera without using camera terms. Scenes full of action, like a car chase or a fight, can be exciting, but they require the writer to concentrate our focus at all times. You can choose to blend scene headings into your narrative description as well. Let's discuss special scene headings. An example can be seen in this script written by Mike Mills. There are a number of reasons why a writer may use special scene headings. The first we are going to discuss are montages, or series of shots. A montage is a sequence of brief action and/or images, often without dialogue, expressing a single concept, such as a passage of time, falling in love, or a training montage. Sometimes you'll see such a section referred to as a series of shots. While the formatting for each follows the same principles, it's helpful to differentiate them. If the montage arises from a scene already in progress, write montage as a secondary scene heading, then list the elements of the montage, either as separate action lines or a bulleted list. When the montage is complete, close it with back to scene or end of montage, again written as a secondary scene heading. If the montage takes place in a different location than the previous scene, add montage to the master scene heading for the new scene, then use the elements of the montage. When the montage is finished, indicate end of montage. If the montage takes place in multiple locations, you can write montage various as your master scene heading, and then list each master scene heading for each location. Another option is to format each location as its own scene. This is often the best choice if more than one beat of action happens in each scene. Another popular use of special scene headings is in flashbacks. There are many methods to writing flashbacks. Each of the following methods can also be used when writing flash forwards, dreams, daydreams, and nightmares. When short flashbacks happen within a scene, you can label them as you would a montage. Consider using the following method of beginning and ending longer flashbacks. That is, to note somewhere in your master scene heading that the flashback has started and ended. If a flashback is more than one scene in length, use a longer heading for the first scene, or as a standalone line, write begin flashback. The following scene headings can then be written as a normal heading without needing to add flashback. At the end of the sequence, write end of flashback or back to present day. Lastly, let's briefly discuss inserts. The insert is used when it's important to bring special attention to a small detail, such as text, an image, or prop. This is also useful with drawing audience attention to what is on a TV. If a character is watching TV and words or images appear on the screen, you can use the TV as a secondary screen heading and write what is appearing. As always, remember, consistency plus readability equals correct format. Whichever options you choose, just continue to use them throughout your entire script. As a writing activity for this webinar, when you're editing your screenplay, it helps to list all of your scene headings to assess their consistency and clarity. If you're using Final Draft, you can toggle to view your script in Scene View, which isolates your scene headings along with the first line of narrative description in each scene. You can also generate a scene report, which lists your scene heading and the length of each scene. Beyond understanding the rules of formatting, the best thing a writer can do is read scripts that inspire them and show them how good stories can be told within rigid formatting rules. Linked below is a PDF copy of each script referenced in this webinar. It is important to note that the scripts found online are often shooting scripts, or scripts written by or closely with the director. As such, they contain many exceptions to the rules we've discussed today. Nonetheless, each of these examples operate under these principles of consistency and readability to generate engaging reading experiences. A combination of the above sources have been used to put these series together. They are an invaluable part of any writer's toolbox from the perspectives, examples, and varieties of ways to handle formatting. Of course, with new technologies and formats, this is a medium constantly evolving. Google and screenwriting forums can be worth consulting for the most specific questions or problems you may encounter. This workshop was brought to you by LMU's Writing Center. LMU's Writing Center offers free peer-to-peer feedback on all types of writing at any stage of the writing process, including screenplays. Online and in-person appointments are available. To make an appointment, visit MyLMU, click Academics, and then click Writing and Course Tutoring. We hope to have you use our services one day. Happy writing.